The politics of England in the 1600s paves the way for much of the English colonization in North America. In about 1646, there was a British Civil War. I believe it was Charles II, very unpopular. The Puritans rose up and overthrew the country, led by Oliver Cromwell. They established the Commonwealth, which essentially was a theocracy of Puritanism. By 1660, Oliver Cromwell dies. The monarchy was restored with James II. Charles II is very unpopular. So by 1688, William and Mary are invited to come and take over the country in what's known as the Glorious Revolution. Gives us the English Bill of Rights, which we'll see was a foundation for American rights as well. Essentially, all of the colonies were founded during this period, except for Georgia. And what's interesting is the motives are all very different than the Spanish motives, and even the colonies are different than each other. There are two main reasons why people would come to the colonies. The first is religious freedom, and the second is to acquire land and wealth. What they all have in common is that they tended to be created by private business owners or religious collectives, not government officials. So these are very different than the Spanish Empire, which was mostly government funded, and the funds went back to the government. Also interesting is that these private businesses tended to be based around joint stock companies. Any expedition to the New World was far too risky for any one person to put up all the cash. So they split the risk by people would buy stock in these expeditions and then would receive a portion of the profits. It's the sort of a proto system of our modern stock market. When the British got to the New World, they encountered a Native American population that was far less populous in North America than what the Spanish encountered in Central and South America. Part of this is because of disease. Within a century, remember, the diseases had wiped out about 85 to 95% of the native population. But part of it is also just the geography of the location. We'll talk about that more later. Of the business goals, the early form of mercantilism is really taking hold here. What the British needed from the colonies, and the purpose of the colonies, was to provide two things for the British. One, raw materials coming from the New World back to the Old World so that they could make finished products. Things like lumber and such were very valuable. The second was to provide a marketplace for those raw material, for those finished products to be sold. So they were expected to buy only from the British. Now, that might not seem like a great situation, but it's very enticing, especially because in this time period, the British had a population boom. There wasn't enough land for people to be farmers. There wasn't enough jobs for people to be employed. So the promise of America was outstanding, especially to those people from the lower class. They could buy land, which was cheap and plentiful, and it promised a better life. It was really a social valve, safety valve for the British.